If I were given this State of the Union speech earlier this week, first of all, God help us, because that would mean I was president, but Congress wouldn't know when to clap, because the speech would be free of politics, because it's supposed to be the State of the Union, right? Tonight, the State of the Union, not politics. Well, you know what? Let's slow it down. Let me define union here. Union, a combination so formed, especially an alliance or confederation of people, parties, or political entities for mutual interest or benefit or agreement, harmony from uniting individuals. Uniting individuals, an alliance of people. That's what this is. Are we a union anymore? The United States of America, a union. What are our principles that unite us? Once upon a time, America was actually referred to as the melting pot. You remember this? Growing up, I used to love these cartoons on Saturday morning, Schoolhouse Rock. This one was all about the immigrants. And the immigrants all want to come to America, and they're jumping in, and they're not jumping into the ocean, they're jumping into a pot. It's a melting pot. And people come, all their differences and everything else, they come into the pot and they eventually wave the American flag because they were all in it together, no matter how different they were. They were different. But at the end of the day, being an American was still a uniting concept. Well, if we're no different than any other country, what unites us? Are we still a melting pot? YouTube is not the problem, but the name does have part of it. And melting pot. How do we get out of this mess? Well, we have to be a melting pot again. We have to find what unites us and get back into the melting pot. But on the big things, values and principles that we all found on 9/11 and 9/12. And you have to be a leader. We have an incredible leadership vacuum in this country. So, melting pot, reestablish it, but with principles and values, and remember, you take the lead. Start from the beginning. We change ourselves to fix our country and our world. It is fascinating to me that after the greatest generation, our parents and our grandparents who fought back the scourge of the fascists and the communists, it was their children who were the ones that caused all the rioting and the problems in the 1960s. That's who they were. They burned the flag. Their parents fought against fascism and communism. Why did that happen? I believe it's because they weren't required to do very much. There's a couple of other reasons. First, our grandparents wanted to make sure that their children didn't go without like they did. They also didn't talk to their kids about the great sacrifice and the cost, the awful price they had to pay for their safety and freedom. Think about your grandparents. Did they talk about the war? Did your grandfather talk about what he did? Most didn't. So everything became this leave it to beaver world for them. And they turned into the 60s hippies that rebelled. We let our guard down. We had misplaced values. The next generation, well, not as radical as the 1960s, didn't learn responsibility either. When these two generations took over Wall Street, and the last of the greatest generation walked out the door, it was the 60s radical that replaced him. And that's when all hell broke loose. That's back in the 90s. Subprime mortgage, credit default swaps, day trading, no down payment required, interest-only mortgages. There is no easy money, and there are consequences, but that generation never learned them. The generation before did. The good news is, the generation that we are raising now understands this. I think they are the most valiant that we have seen. They are the ones who are going to set this thing right. We made a mess of it. And we've got to now do what we can to make it right. It is up to us to know that times are changing, and then to act on that and instill the values and work ethic necessary to carry the burden. Each of us with children and grandchildren have an unbelievable moral and I think sacred responsibility to do all we can to reverse the trend and equip our children and grandchildren, a generation that has rot inside. Some of them are dead inside because they've already been lost. Don't. Teach them goodness, perspective, and responsibility.